What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk to you about Lucid. I want to go over some expectations for this upcoming week, what might cause some volatility in the stock price, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. So starting off with macro data points, we do have a lot of inflationary data. So on Tuesday, we have the dreaded CPI, PPI on Thursday alongside initial jobless claims, and then we do have Friday being a pretty big day, retail sales and Michigan consumer sentiment. So a lot of inflationary data slash consumer, so that could really move the market. Going into this week though, the likelihood of a September cut is pretty much near 100%, but now what is up for debate, whether that September 17th meeting is going to be a 50 basis point cut or not. So a lot of this data this week will kind of move that mentality. Specific to Lucid though, you do have this. So the only thing is going to be Pebble Beach, and that's going to be pretty much Thursday, I do believe, so August the 14th. And then we do have the Woodward Dream Cruise, and then the rest of the stuff is for the following weekend. So nothing really substantial, and most likely I don't anticipate any interviews by Mark. So he did the one that was post earnings on Bloomberg. Aside from that, we haven't really had all that much. And companies unveiling the earnings, all the big players have been over the last 2 weeks. So some interesting stocks right here, some more speculative ones, but nothing that is going to really move the broader market. So it is going to be more of a technical driven week alongside Trump as well, talking potentially about tariffs. There's still a lot that's kind of stuck in limbo, such as India and Europe. So those are going to be some of the hot ones. One thing I do want to bring up, if there is, let's say, a flyover, we might start to see a ramp up in gravities, because in the most recent earnings, Mark did mention that in Q3, there's going to be more deliveries of the Gravity than the Air. So most likely a lot of flyovers will represent that. Plus, based on this, a lot of analysts are forecasting Q3 to be really ramping up, not just with Lucid, but a lot of other EVs to kind of take advantage of the tax credits before they do expire. You also did have this brought up as well in Lucid's earnings, saying that the 7,500 lease credit is going to be eliminated beginning in Q4 of this year. So again, that's going to be something that Lucid should hopefully really do a lot of marketing to ramp up their sales, to take advantage of that, because once that is eliminated, then it's a little bit more a level playing field. So Lucid will really need to market the hell out of this ASAP, in my opinion. But aside from all that though, we do have this. So the dreaded shareholder meeting that is coming up August 18th. So it isn't exactly this week, but as we do near this actual meeting on August 18th, you will have a lot more people starting to chatter about it. So potentially this might increase the negative sentiment, potentially impacting the stock price. And of course, you will have shorts sitting back and just laughing. So they'll be able to take advantage of all that fear leading into the earnings. I will be doing a little bit more of a deeper dive on what the actual like reverse stock split or potential reverse stock split would mean, and just again my kind of true thoughts on that. But even on Friday, shorts did increase 1.06 million shares. Going into this upcoming week, 31.91% of the free float is being shorted. Works out to be 400 million shares. So shorts have not been letting up whatsoever. They've been really just pouncing and doubling down. So kind of crazy stuff if you ask me. Aside from that, looking at the options, bulls do feel like roughly $3 is anticipated. So that would be a pretty good return on investment if you think about it. But the bears are anticipating for it to be sub 2, and that more is linked to the technicals. One thing to take note of though is the open interest. You did have 3,000 at that 2. So ultimately with that amount, you won't be seeing any bump up. So no gamma squeeze or whatever else. This next week though, so the week ending August the 15th, that is a monthly chain, and that is crazy stuff. So you have 11,000 at that 2, 79,000 at that 250, 62,000 at that 3, 59,000 at that 350. So for whatever reason, if Lucid puts out some solid news and starts to appreciate, then this is where you could see a nice gamma squeeze. But just keep that in mind that both market makers and shorts have a financial interest in having most of this expire worthless. So let's say Lucid does get close to that 250. This is where you could see shorts really increasing like 10, 15, 20 million shares, really to ensure that Lucid does close below that. So again, something to keep in mind. Going into this upcoming week with it closing at 213 on Friday, it is trading between this S2 and this S3. So a little bit more of a technical breakdown that did occur on Friday because this 217 did break. So that's going to be a key resistance that you really want to watch for Lucid to get above early on in the week if you're going to see any sort of recovery. But flip side, 193 is going to be that next strong support, and if that for whatever reason does fail to hold, then in theory $1.29 is going to be the following support level, but most likely 150 will be a very big psychological support as well. But still kind of crazy that we're talking about the 150s and 193s when it was pretty much at that $3 range just a couple of weeks back. So definitely crazy turn of events. As far as this on the actual chart, like I said, this week is going to be more of a technical driven week, and you do have the 50-day moving average at 235. So Lucid shorts prior to even their earnings, they were hitting Lucid hard to kind of set up it to fail, for it to break below that 50-day moving average. They did that no different than the 200-day moving average. So over the last little bit, it really did break down very, very fast. So going into this upcoming week, things aren't really that great. So it does signal that there's a little bit more consolidation. And historically speaking, every time it does break below that 50-day moving average, usually result in like a 30% pullback, at least in either direction, whether it's breaking up or down. But that is something, again, to somewhat keep in mind. But aside from that, though, stochastic RSI is very oversold. So if there's a good piece of news, whether it be specific to Lucid or the broader market, then you could see a nice level of buying, as people will see this as overdone and really push it higher. But I think Lucid right now, and this is something I even mentioned before even the Q2 earnings did come out, the ball is in Lucid's court. So they need to do something. As much as us retail investors have done a lot of due diligence, researched, and kind of expected certain things, it's all up to Lucid now. So they really, really need to execute, and for sure need to hit between that 18 to 20,000 by the end of the year. If not, then you are going to see a significant pull lower. So let me know your thoughts on Lucid. Where do you see things going for this upcoming week? In my opinion, as much as I would love for Lucid to really move higher, I do feel that it will be closing somewhere in between this S2 and this S3, probably around that $2 range in all fairness. Only because I guess just based on a lot of the data that is coming out this week, it could be very touchy. And from what I've seen recently, it looks like negotiations between Europe and the States aren't really going all that well. So let me know your general thoughts. Where do you see things going for this upcoming week? At what stage would you be a buyer? As I've mentioned in previous videos, I think I'll be a buyer between that $1.80 and $1.90 range. That's one thing I've mentioned, I think even several months ago. So I'm not in any rush to FOMO into Lucid even when it was going up, because more specifically, I want to really see Lucid ramp up, because you can get a million different deals out there, partnerships, but if you can't really ramp up to hit certain targets, then the stock price is going to suffer regardless. So you can partner with Apple all you want, or even Hyundai, like even Tesla, throwing out random kind of companies there. But yeah, you can partner with anyone, but if you can't ramp up, then it's all for naught. So let me know your thoughts on Lucid. Hopefully everyone's having an amazing weekend. One final thing, pop over to my Patreon if you're looking for some solid buy signals on stocks, options, crypto, many of which have been absolutely on point and bangers. Definitely worthwhile to pop over there and take a look. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.